My name is Emily Bustamante. My son is Logan Bustamante. He was about a year and a half old when he slowly started to lose words. Not a lot of eye contact, not a lot of affection, and really, really short attention span. Very short. He is considered to be on the autistic spectrum, high functioning, was extremely active and had really, really bad tantrums. And it was a lot of slamming his head into things, hitting himself with things, hitting himself with his own hands. We contacted the Infants and Toddlers Services. As we worked with the Infants and Toddlers program, his tantrums are almost completely gone. He's a lot more affectionate, a lot more eye contact, and the words are slowly, very slowly, but they're definitely coming back.
Everybody's involved. We've done some therapy sessions at home and done sessions with grandma and grandpa's there, and we even go to, this is the part I love, to great-grandma's dojo. We've been going there Fridays because they have so much equipment that he loves to meet his sensory needs.
Just to see the increase in eye contact, to see the increase in touching and him not wince or pull away. He comes to us. He's affectionate with us now. There's engagement now. Look, don't touch has become look and touch.
Yeah, he loves it.
Which is just great.
I think without intense therapy and therapy early, kids with autism in particular don't respond as well. It's more difficult to teach new tasks, and it's difficult to even reach them once you get past 3. Without infant toddler services, I don't know that he would be able to communicate and function as well as he is now, which is the basis for really functioning in society.
There are programs and services that happen here, but she comes and sees him in his world, in his environment, to understand what that really looks and sounds like every day. I think that her support and her guidance is that much more on point because she gets that firsthand look and touch and feel of what a day in the life of Logan is.
He actually sees her as often enough that he recognizes her and he'll actually go to her now. He considers her a part of the family at this point.
I'm very proud of her, and I think you've been very courageous. I think that there's not a manual you get, as you know, when you become a parent, let alone now you have a child, a grandchild who is
got a special set. Dude, you need a whole
has
nother
a
manual.
unique set of challenges that doesn't come with a manual either, and we have the opportunity for an expert to come in and help show us what a roadmap might look like. It's what makes it just not a nice to do, it's a need to do.
We can see such progress in these kids, and parents and families become so hopeful. And if you can get in there early enough and intensely enough, you can really make lifelong changes for the family and for the child.
He is just so brilliant and so sweet. And he has got such a big heart and such a big personality. And the only part that I have a problem with is just not being able to explain to him why him being different isn't a bad thing.
It takes a lot of bravery to accept that and embrace that. It takes a lot because it's a lifelong challenge. And I think coming to that realization can be very hard for families.
Being incapable of accepting it means that you're not accepting a part of who your child is. Different's good. He's a great kid. I wouldn't have him any other way.
My name is Annie. My son's name is Peter. He's 2 years old, and he has developmental delays in speech and behavior. The only thing we noticed about Peter early on was that he did not sleep, also lacked the ability to self-soothe, and then around 12 months, we noticed that he only had one word. And then around 16 months, he only had 5 words, which is when we decided to contact Infant and Toddler Services at Johnson County.
It was hard in the beginning because a typical toddler, you could ignore something that if he was upset over something. You can't ignore Peter when he does that because he has mastocytosis. And if he has a tantrum or cries, like typical children, he may break out in hives and then have to have medication, which then makes him sleep.
He's still very delayed in a lot of areas, but our life is like night and day from what it was last summer. He has more of an attention span. He went from 5 words to about 47 words. He also uses those words instead of hitting or throwing tantrums that could last 30 minutes to an hour.
From that child to this child now who just tolerated an hour of play in a different place and smiled and giggled and had a good time is just phenomenal.
Infant and Toddler Services has absolutely changed our lives. Lori and Kathy have changed basically the way our entire family relates to each other. And now, instead of Peter being a constant challenge to everyone, we enjoy him. Honestly, I don't know where we would be without Infant and Toddler Services.
The family is really important in the follow-through of things that we actually decide together in a session.
I feel that Lori is one of the best people in the world. She has done everything for us. She cares as much about Peter as we do. Peter absolutely adores Lori, and so do we. I mean, she is an absolute godsend to us. And thankfully, we've had Lori and Kathy and everyone at Infant and Toddler Services who've been so helpful and have gotten us every resource possible. Infant and Toddler Services, and mainly the support of Lori, has helped me have the courage and I guess you could call it bravery to go about my daily life, to get through the day. Not only has she helped Peter, but she's there to be my therapist on a daily basis if I need her, because it can become very overwhelming and it can feel very lonely and that nothing's ever going to get better.
You have to be brave enough and selfless enough, I would say, as a parent to admit that your child might need some help. Bravery is huge for these families in dealing with their day-to-day lives.
It just gives me the extra oomph, I guess, to get through the day, especially when we have very challenging days.
Our son Will, 3.5, and Drew, 18 months, are seen by Infant Toddler Services.
Will, our 3.5-year-old, was diagnosed with a speech delay at 18 months. He only had a couple of words, and that was only if you were really being generous. So that's when we called Infant Toddler Services for the first time.
I first started seeing Will when he was about 2.5 years old, and the main issue with the family was that no one could understand him. And he verbalized a lot and vocalized a lot, but his intelligibility was pretty poor.
I think that at the beginning he was frustrated a lot trying to get his opinion across, or trying to get us to know what he needed, because he just didn't have the words.
Some very basic signs were introduced at the very beginning before we started to address what was going on with his speech, and it sure alleviated the frustration of, I think, his everyday life and ours. Not long after meeting the folks with Infant Toddler Services, we were pregnant with our little guy Drew, who was diagnosed with Down syndrome during our pregnancy. And so Drew has been seen by Infant Toddler, by Kathy, ever since he was born.
I started with Drew when he came home from the hospital, and that's when I first met him. And he was the sweetest little, cutest little pink little bundle of joy. And we played with him as an infant, and then we brought Trina on board because a lot of the questions that Mom and Dad had concerned physical therapy, and I really wanted Trina to lay eyes and hands on him as well. And then they also had some feeding issues, and so I was helping with that. As a speech language pathologist, I could help, but we brought Trina on board right over along at the very beginning to help with the motor.
I think that Infant Toddler gave us as parents some resources, things that we can do at home. That short visit isn't going to be the cure. What you need to do is teach the parents how to work with the child on this specific, on whatever it is they're working on.
I think that families that come to us have a child with special needs. And when that family was pregnant, they weren't expecting that child to be born with special needs. And it took them down a journey and down a road that they weren't expecting to have to travel. Trina and I, on the other hand, we've trained to work with children with special needs. We're expecting that. We're excited about going into those households to work with those families. So we're there and we're ready and prepared to help bring that family down that road that they weren't expecting to be on. So it's exciting for us to watch a little one grow and develop through our process, and then to help them transition to whatever that child's going to be next.
You have to really work. You know, he's going to reach all the same milestones that every other kid is going to, but he's going to do it a little more slowly, and he's going to do it with a lot more work.
He's had this huge explosion of
Growth.
learning, really. Yeah, so he was popping bubbles.
Pulling up on things.
Yes, rolling the ball back and forth, crawling to go get people.
They've been great teachers for us. And we've asked lots of questions. I think we've worn Kathy out with questions. At least I know I have. I believe a lot of people think that our life is drastically different, but we just have this adorable 17 and a half, 18-month-old little boy named Drew. And if we make no assumptions about what Drew will be able to do in his life, no telling where his development will take him.
I don't really have a crystal ball to be able to predict how each child will do in their life, but I do know that early intervention matters, and that for every $1 we spend on early intervention, we save $7 down the road.
I do believe that Mark and Sarah have been very brave on their journey with Down syndrome. And so I think you have to be brave to put yourself out there and advocate for your child and make sure that they're getting what they need.
We're just parents who love our little guys, and like everyone else out there, just want to do the best that we can for them.
Thank you.